Deep in the jungle of Borneo, 4 athletes push themselves hard through the heat and humidity in training for one of the most demanding events in world sport. It's a scene that's being repeated around the world by many of the world's elite endurance athletes. Through the arid deserts of Utah and the frozen Rocky Mountains of Colorado. In the forests of Finland, where the winter darkness brings perpetual night. And through the sun-kissed gorges of central France to the alpine grandeur of Switzerland. But it's in the spectacular landscape of New Zealand that the reigning outdoor quest champions have their home. 30-year-old Christina Anglem, a resident of Christchurch, is a member of the victorious Team Seagate Quartet. A professional adventure racer, she tries to maintain the perfect balance between hard training and relaxation that is crucial to a successful career.
Having a life outside of sport is immensely important to me. I think if you don't have another outlet in your life, then you turn up to races frazzled because you've had so many other things going on in your life, you've had no time to relax and just enjoy the hype of a race. And the other thing is that you turn up probably too intense in the moment. It's your only focus, it's the only thing that you've just been pulling yourself through. If you have outlets, you have social times, you have laughs, you know, just completely separate to any competition or racing, I think you turn up to a race much fresher.
That was certainly the case last year in Borneo, as Christina and her 3 male teammates made a huge impact on their first appearance at the Outdoor Quest. The team, led by Captain Nathan Fave, including Richard Usher and Hayden Key, controlled the race throughout the 5 days, edging out their great rivals Nike ACG and Nokia Adventure to claim the richest prize in adventure racing.
I'm so proud of my win from last year. That was a really hard-fought battle. Even in the last day, we went into it with 7 minutes lead. One of the almost horrific moments was when we punctured on the bike, and punctured once, fixed it, rode up the road, caught back up the other teams, punctured again, and as we went to fix it that time, we blew our last tube, so we'd run out of tubes. We still had 5 Ks to go on the bike. We only went into the race with 7 minutes. I mean, that's how tight it was. The whole race was just, can't give away a minute here, can't give away a minute there. So suddenly we were just, you know, stranded on this bike leg, 5 Ks to go with a flat tyre and nothing to fix it with. But before we knew it, really what was happening, we had a system. Nathan was like, okay, I'm going to ride up the road, I'll just ride it flat. Hayden was off to help tow him if he needed to, because it's a lot harder work without a tube. I was back picking up the rubbish and things, the debris from fixing our tyres, and Nathan just rode brilliantly on a flat tyre. It was one of those moments that you just realise the team is all in sync. Everything's just working properly. Before we knew it, we were on the beach, teams were back in sight, and the wind was back in sight. Yeah, horrific, at the same time incredibly rewarding. I can still remember running up that last section after going around the flag at the end and running up the last section of rocks to the finish line. The feelings were just immense pride in myself and in the team, and relief. You know, it was a really tough race. The competition was hard. And finally being able to sit back and look on the week and relax and not worry about all the details, actually enjoy the nexus a bit more.
The Nexus Resort, located on the outskirts of Sabah's state capital, Kota Kinabalu, is again the 5-star base for the athletes in Borneo. Seagate are amongst the first teams to arrive after a long and tiring trip.
It's midnight now. We just walked off the plane and still we're just hit with this wall of humidity and heat, even at midnight. I have no idea how hot it's going to be tomorrow day, especially if the sun's out. Maybe all my heat training that I've been doing in the bathroom with the heater blowing and the kettle going will hopefully pay off. Who knows, it's definitely hot.
As morning arrives, the forecast for the days ahead is hot, clear skies. The heat and humidity will cause problems, not just for the athletes, but for the race staff, which numbers more than 100 people.
That's the finish chute.
Amongst them are race director Murphy Reinschreiber and executive director Nick Freyer, both of whom have been with the Outdoor Quest team since its inception 8 years ago in China's spectacular Sichuan province.
I look back at Zhejiang in 1997, I'm almost embarrassed with what we did, but at the time it was a fantastic experience and the athletes knew that it was something special. It was really tough to attract the athletes in year one. We had $100,000 in prize money, which was a lot, but we had no proven record and nobody knew China, people were scared. But after year one, the dynamite was lit and it's been growing ever since.
You're about 9 minutes.
The first edition coincided with the boom in the sport's popularity, but adventure racing was still a relatively new concept, and the Outdoor Quest presented a different and popular race format.
We knew a lot more about triathlon than we did about adventure racing. In those days you had the Eco Challenge, which had been going 1 or 2 years. You had a couple of the races in New Zealand. So what we essentially did is we fused our triathlon knowledge and things we liked about the sport with the things that we thought we knew about adventure racing. And that's why today you have the race where the athletes sleep in a nice bed and have showers at night as opposed to expedition type races. We had the 4 to 5 day format as opposed to 8 to 9 day races. And our race is more speed focused as opposed to a slog type of race where it's just, grind. So it's probably a higher quality experience. And that really has the roots in the fusion of adventure racing and triathlon.
8 years later, the race has little problem attracting athletes of the quality of Seagate. The event has brought 20 teams to northern Borneo, each including at least one female athlete or an athlete over 45 years of age. Some are hardened professionals in search of a big payday. Some are amateurs looking for a new experience. All are in for a challenge that will test them to their limits. Every sport produces its own iconic figures. Soccer has Pelé, basketball Jordan, and cycling has Armstrong. In the world of adventure racing, this man falls into the same category. Ian Adamson is widely regarded as the finest multi-sport athlete in the world. The Australian has won just about every major race in his sport, and when he arrived with the powerful Eco-Internet team in Zhejiang in 1997, he was hoping to add the inaugural Outdoor Quest title to his CV. But, as Adamson knows only too well, the only constant in adventure racing is its unpredictability. His team, which also included Kiwi multi-sport legend Steve Gurney, was pipped for first place by the relatively unheralded Team Scar. Losing was a bitter pill to swallow, but adventure racing's ethos of sportsmanship was still evident at the finish line.
We went home a little bit disappointed. We thought we'd race well enough to win the event, so we wanted to come back in '98 and really race well. The 1998 race was a really interesting race because it was a step up into being a professional event for the Outdoor Quest. We went from being in the backwoods of Xichang in Sichuan province into Yunnan province in Dali, which is a stunningly beautiful, culturally deep, rich environment. And it really started to form the character of the outdoor quest. We started to see a lot of huge crowds. We saw some amazing ancient temples and monuments in the old walled city. And that really gave a feeling to us as athletes as a real flavour in a race, something that was unique and something that was really special.
How much time?
But the increased profile of the race brought with it a new threat to Adamson's hopes of victory.
The Finns came along for the first time. We'd never seen Finnish athletes racing in these races, and they came from Nordic ski backgrounds largely, so we expected they'd be physically capable, but we were very surprised at how strong they were and how they had come into a race that they'd never seen, a new format, against teams that they'd never raced against. And all the other teams kind of knew each other. There was the Kiwis, and there was Aussies and Americans and other European triathletes and adventure athletes, and the Finns came out of nowhere and just blew us all away. When we first saw the Finns racing, we realised that they have an incredibly fierce competitive streak. We were coming from the old school of adventure racing where it was all chummy and everyone raced hard but had a lot of fun. And then all of a sudden there were these fierce competitors who didn't appear to have any fun at all, and they just wanted to win. And they did, you know, they would literally hurt themselves to win. And we weren't quite unprepared for that. The Finns kind of changed the sport. They came in and they made everyone wake up a little bit and become a bit more professional. In '99, we had a different approach to the outdoor quest. We knew that the Finns were very, very strong. We had advantages over them. We knew we were fast in transitions, we were faster on the water, slower on the skates. And in the balance, we thought it would be pretty close, but we still felt we had the ability to win. Of course, the ability to win and actually winning are two different things.
Back in Dali for the second year, the field was the strongest so far assembled for the outdoor quest. As many had predicted, it came down to a straight fight between Ian Adamson's Eco Internet outfit and the Finnish Halti team, including Petri Forsman and Mika Sompi.
How was it?
After a fierce battle and a number of problems with missing markings on the racecourse, it was the Finns who triumphed, giving Petri Forsman his second outdoor quest title. Yet again, Adamson had to settle for the silver medal position.
We were very disappointed after the '99 race. At that point, I was ready to come and tack it again, but I got another offer which changed my idea of how to approach the event.
We need to find a solution to this. We haven't found a solution up to this point because we'd like to include the athletes in this conversation.
That offer came as a result of the problems that had dogged the setup of the racecourse in Dali. Like any new event, the outdoor quest was experiencing growing pains.
Hands up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Events are a lot like nature. Either you evolve or you die, and we needed to change going into the 2000 year. And the place we needed to change the most was with our technical staff and technical director. And what we needed was a really buttoned-down technical director, and Ian met that description, and that's what he gave us.
What'll it cost?
But that wasn't the end of the recruitment drive. Adamson and Reinschreiber also brought in a man who was one of the pioneers of the sport of adventure racing, the legendary John Howard. Howard's home is on New Zealand's South Island, one of the world's great outdoor playgrounds. Like many of his fellow Kiwis, his relationship with multi-sport is viewed not as a hobby or pastime, but as a choice of lifestyle.
I always wanted to be outdoors. I've never been good at studying or sitting behind a desk, and it was something I always wanted to do. been a window cleaner for 30 years now. I worked for myself. I could take time off when I needed to. I could go rock climbing or skiing or kayaking when I wanted to. I could go overseas and race in Eco Challenge or the Raid Gulwar. It was my life and I didn't have a boss telling me what to do, and it's always been that way.
That commitment to racing and outdoor pursuits led Howard to victory in all the big expedition events.
To be a top team, I think you have to be very, very committed to the sport. It has to be your life, really. When I was racing, we'd go to 1 or 2 races a year, if we were lucky, and we all had other jobs. The teams nowadays are getting sponsorship. They have their whole year planned out. They'll go to 3 or 4 major races a year. It's much more professional. To design the race course, we start probably 6 months before the race actually is due to be held. We'll be given an area or a location. We look at maps first off. Then we might take a helicopter trip, look at the scenic highlights from the helicopter, and then we'll spend 2 or 3 weeks in that location, joining up all the scenic highlights, making sure everything is safe, checking rivers, checking mountains.
John? Big ball, this one. Yeah, it is. I think it looks bigger than it is because of all that space out there.
It's a lot of work, and we all end up doing the course 2 or 3 times before we even decide on exactly where the course is going. We're both athletes. I'm an ex-athlete, Ian's Stu Racing. He's Stu at the forefront of adventure racing. And so we like to make a course that suits athletes, that athletes will enjoy primarily. But then we have to consider the camera, the safety aspects, the logistics, how easy it is to get canoes from one place to another. But I think with Ian and myself, we really like to make it good fun and enjoyable for the athletes and the teams that are racing.
The Howard Adamson Course Design Partnership is now established as the finest in the sport. And in the days before the start of the race, there are still last-minute decisions to be made.
Why don't you go for 9-foot wall? Have a look at
9'8". How much can you squeeze under?
How big is my head? How wide's my head? Measure my head.
Hold on. It takes a lot to measure your head.
Final preparations are also continuing around the hotel. The medical staff are preparing for every eventuality. Thousands of bottles of water are unloaded to keep the athletes hydrated. And in London, 2 tons of television equipment and 25 crew are on their way to film what promises to be the most spectacular race in the history of the outdoor quest. With the start of the race approaching, the final few teams arrive at Kota Kinabalu's International Airport. Many have had journeys of 24 hours or more.
When your travel ratio to race ratio is 1-to-1, that's a good race.
The late arrivals include top female stars Danelle Ballingy and Monique Merrill and irrepressible Australian Addie Goodvibes.
She's a tough little pushy, so I'm hoping that she'll survive this trip here to Sava.
I would like to get it started. All this pre-race stuff makes me nervous.
As the final teams complete the last hour or so of their journey by bus to the Nexus Resort, many of the teams already settled in are enjoying some last-minute training. The strong Finnish contingent this year includes Team Sunto. As well as being talented endurance athletes, the quartet are in typical Nordic fashion, employing the latest technology to get themselves properly prepared for the race. Terho Lahtinen, the Victoria's captain in 1998, is a product manager for the company which manufactures his sophisticated heart rate monitor.
Harjoituksen aikana meillä on tämä sykevyö päällä, joka lähettää radiotaajuudella sykesignaalin tänne rannelaitteeseen. Ja rannelaite tallentaa joka ainoan sydämen lyönnin. Ja sitten tästä sykevälidata, kun se siirretään tietokoneelle, niin siitä pystytään sitten analysoimaan erilaisia tietoja harjoituksesta. Syke, harjoituksen aiheuttama rasitus, hapen kulutus, energian kulutus, tällaisia asioita. Kilpailun aikana tämän sykkeen mittaamisen tärkein hyöty on siinä, että osataan pitää sopiva vauhti ja aloittaa riittävän rauhallisesti, ettei väsähdetä kesken matkan. Täällä on monta päivää kisaa ja todella kuumat olot, niin rauhallinen alku on tärkeää.
If Lahtinen is to taste victory again this year, he'll need all the help he can get. The other all-Finnish team in the race, Nokia Adventure, is captained by the most successful athlete in outdoor quest history, Petri Forsman. In 2000, when Nokia Adventure arrived in the beautiful town of Lijiang, just a few hundred kilometers from Dali, Forsman was aiming for his third consecutive outdoor quest title.
Vuosi 2000 Lijiangissa oli ehkä kaikkein kovatasoisin kisa, mitä on ollut, tai ainakin siihen asti oli ollut, ja eikä senkään jälkeen niin kovatasoista kisaa välttämättä ollut, että joukkueet oli todella lähellä toisiaan lopputuloksissa ja kilpailu oli todella tiukkaa. Lijiangissa niin sanoisin, että korkeus oli varmaan semmoinen suuri ongelma joukkueelle, että siellähän käytiin todella korkealla silloin, että oli kylmää ja viileitä keliä oli, että ihan lumessakin jouduttiin silloin siellä kilpailemaan. Ja yksi vaikeimmista, mitä joukkueet siellä joutui kokemaan, ja sitten tietysti sillä kertaa oli paljon enemmän tämmöisiä seikkailullisia elementtejä mukana, mitä siihen asti ei vielä ollut.
It was another commanding performance by the Finns, and confirmation that, for the moment at least, they were still the team to beat. Forsman had now established himself as the dominant athlete in the race, but the fiercely competitive Finn wasn't yet ready to rest on his laurels. The next year, the race returned to Lijiang. This time, there would be no victory for Forsman. An elite multinational outfit comprising Daniel Balangi, Keith Murray, John Jacoby and Steve Gurney was simply too strong and too experienced. This year, Steve Gurney is ruled out through injury, but is working as a member of the race staff. The moment that his team broke the Finns' stranglehold remains one of the highlights of a glittering career.
I remember in Lijiang, beating the Finns, beating Nokia was tremendously satisfying because they'd had such a reign over it, and it was almost like they were an unbeatable team, and the fact that we beat them was really satisfying.
How's your hand? This one. It's okay.
On the other hand, you know, we are really good mates in this sport. There's a lot of camaraderie, and it felt a wee bit mean to beat them. but you know, that's how racing goes, and afterwards we all have a beer and talk about it, so it's fine.
Okay, here we go.
For the outdoor quest, it was the end of an era in more ways than one. 2002, the race left China for the first time and landed in Borneo, where the heat and humidity would provide a very different test to the mountains of Yunnan province. Ballingy, Murray and Gurney were joined by newcomer Aidan Craig. It may have been a different lineup, but the result was never really in doubt. With Murray and Gurney injured and Craig absent, Danielle Ballingy is the only member of that winning lineup to be racing this year. She's part of Team Astafactor, who are at best an outside bet to win.
To boost one, so two of us are going up together. Okay.
That's good, and then you two can run and jump. I think every race I go into, I always try my hardest, and in this race I'm going to try my hardest as well. It may require me taking a little bit different role in the team this time. Maybe I'll be able to contribute more with the towing and the helping along rather than the one that's sort of being towed and helped along.
The one thing Ballingy is guaranteed is a high level of entertainment from her effervescent teammate, Australian Addie Good Vibes.
That's right. You're slowing down. Yeah. And then we go like this, guys. Like, back, come back. They're not. We'll have to do it again.
I'm gonna put an electric shock collar on Addie, and when he stops to talk to the cameras for too long, I'm gonna beep it. Try and keep him moving.
Amongst the hot favourites are Ballingy's former teammates from the previous year, Nike ACG. They include two of the world's most renowned endurance athletes, Mike Closer and Michael Tobin, along with George Christensen and Ballingy's replacement, Monique Merrill.
There's no buoy on the beach yet.
No, and then we run back, we grab a bow.
Last year, Nike had been in contention with Seagate until the end of the final day. Then an underwater orienteering test had gone badly wrong. They arrived at the adventure skill in first place, but had to watch helplessly as their great rivals passed while they struggled to find the final hidden checkpoint. It's a memory that still rankles with Closer and Tobin, and as the final night of preparation before the race draws to a close, both are more determined than ever that this year they will land the biggest prize in adventure racing. It's early morning at the Nexus Resort, and the first of the 5 stages of the outdoor quest is about to begin. For organisers and athletes alike, it's a final chance to fully enjoy the atmosphere before the serious business of racing begins. The format of the day is very different to the rest of the race. Speed will be the key factor, as the teams have to negotiate 3 separate races over short distances, each involving running, biking, kayaking and adventure skills. As the teams go through their final warm-ups, it becomes apparent that all is not well with one of the race favourites, Team Nike ACG. Their Kiwi member George Christensen fell while skating the evening before. He's broken his wrist, but in the great tradition of adventure racing, pulling out of the event is not even considered. There's sympathy from rivals Seagate, but with the first race about to begin, Christensen faces a painful outdoor quest campaign.
Just learning how to stop. And Mike was trying to teach me.
10, 9, 8, 7.
Okay, all IMG staff in position.
5.
We are ready.
3, 2.
The first race begins with a short run to try and spread the teams out before they head for their kayaks. Richard Usher of reigning champion Seagate is first to pull his vessels into the surf. With 40 kayaks being launched, clear water is a distinct advantage. As Team I Rule lead the flotilla back to the beach, there's little to separate the field. The second leg of the first race is a 1,000-meter run that involves a couple of obstacles along the way. Seagate and I Rule lead the stream of teams back to the transition for the change to mountain bikes for the final 2-kilometer leg. As Petri Forsman and Nokia Adventure set off just seconds behind, the lead changes hands again and again. But as the athletes come back towards the finish line, I Rule have opened up a clear gap at the front. The chasing pack is just seconds behind. Having racked their bikes, John Howard's wall is all that stands between them and victory in the first race. After 22.5 minutes of hard work, I Rule draw first blood. Precious seconds can be gained or lost on the wall climb, and teamwork and a well-rehearsed routine are apparent from the top athletes. Seagate come in second, less than a minute behind, with Nokia Adventure and a host of other teams right on their heels.
Throw away race 1 and reload race 2.
That was fast and furious.
But we did well, I think. On the run, we did a lot of communicating. Awesome.
With just 20 minutes between races, there's little time to relax, especially for teams like Nokia, who already have running repairs to carry out on their equipment. Others are having more enjoyment.
It's kind of fun doing this. It's crisp. It's competitive. The bike's really fun. It's like a little mini road race out there. Everybody's drafting and moving around behind people's wheels. It's really fun.
It's hot, hard, fast.
Okay, folks, race 2 is run, bike, kayak.
Straight ahead, straight ahead.
Runners back in 2 minutes, 2 minutes to bike. up there, Mr. Chan?
All runners on the way back now, or under control over here. Over.
Team coming on the run to transition.
The first team is just going past the end of the hotel. They're crossing the creek now and they're coming back your way. Okay, bike's back in about 2 or 3 minutes. One minute to transition. Team number 4 coming into the beach, just about to dismount. Team number 4. Bikes inside of the TA. Let's go, girls! No, let's go. Coming back in. Need some manpower for direction here on the kayak. Copy that. Okay, here they come, all hands on deck.
Once again, I-Rule reached the final hurdle in pole position.
Team 12 coming to the finish.
Busy at the wall, watch out for that.
The battle for second is between Montreal and Team Switzerland. Montreal takes second by a second. As the teams file through the finish line, the heat is already taking its toll.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that is a wrap. Congratulations.
But with one race to go, it's not time yet for the athletes to relax. As the third and final sprint race approaches, the officials have just a few minutes to collate results and set the order for the staggered start.
So Team 12, Team 4, and Team 2, you will be the first 3 teams off in the next stage, starting in about 5 minutes.
The time splits from the first 2 races will determine the positions at the start gate, meaning that the first team to cross the line will win half of the $5,000 Stage 1 purse. But with prize money at stake for each stage this year, team tactics are difficult to gauge.
Possibly some teams might feel they don't have a chance at the overall, and they're just targeting one day to win, to get some cash, but I think for the teams in contention for the overall race, nothing really changes because you've still got to be there or thereabouts every day to do the overall. So, yeah, we'll just see what happens.
As the athletes mass at the start, the leaders, Team I-Rule, are the first away.
10 seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
They have a lead of more than a minute over Montreal, which, barring accidents, should be enough to claim victory. For I-Rule's Chris Clausen, it's hardly the ideal start. Montreal set off in pursuit. Nokia Adventure are next away, just a few seconds behind Montreal, and just behind them, the time differentials are getting shorter as Team Switzerland and Seagate prepare for the chase.
Okay, the next two teams, you're on 253, and then the next team is 1 second, 254. Okay, go, 54.
At the front of the field, Chris Clausen again loses contact with his bike. But the New Zealand-based quartet still has a commanding lead over their pursuers. Irul reached the kayaks first. Montreal head back towards the beach, but they're being hunted down by both Team Switzerland and Nokia Adventure. Irul, along with Seagate, are probably the best paddlers in the race, and the leaders have clear water ahead of them. As the Swiss team pass by the bemused sun worshippers on the beach, ASICS Australia and Nike ACG approach the end of the bike leg. Montreal are the first to set off in Irul's wake, with the Swiss team right behind. Japan's Team East Wind enter the transition as Nike ACG are making their way to the kayak launch. Further behind are the reigning champions Team Seagate. It's something of a shock to find them racing in the middle order, but their usually inspirational captain Nathan Fave seems less than comfortable in the hot and humid conditions. The warm waters of the South China Sea do little to cool the athletes as they sprint around the marker buoys on the short 1,000-meter paddling leg. Not everyone at the Nexus Resort is gripped by race fever as Irul approach the end of the kayak section. With many of the lower placed teams still starting out on the water, Irul are making their way inexorably along the beach run towards Stage 1 victory and the leaders' yellow vests. With the wall safely negotiated for the final time, it's the New Zealand-based multinational quartet who come home first. Montreal maintained second place to finish just over 2 minutes behind Irul. Despite the handicap of a freshly broken wrist, George Christensen and Nike ACG managed to push their way through the field and finish in third place, just 30 seconds behind Montreal.
How's the arm holding out?
Pedal.
Going to this one?
Yeah. Oh, just see how it goes today, I suppose. Ice it and yeah. Hopefully we'll be right. Yeah.
Team Switzerland claim fourth place with a precise technique on the wall, while Nokia Adventure and ASICS Australia fight it out for fifth position. There's little doubt about the biggest surprise of the day. The reigning champions Seagate have struggled throughout and can only finish in 7th in the company of the Franco-Spanish Buff team. As they cross the line, it soon becomes apparent that Nathan Fave is in some distress.
Let's get some more water.
It seems that he has a tendency to go into a certain heart rhythm called atrial fibrillation, where the top of the heart beats at around about 400 beats in the minute, and the bottom part of the heart beats, well, at a varying rate. And at the start of the race, he flipped into this rhythm from his normal rhythm. And so therefore, for a race where you need to be as elite as you are to compete, then the loss of function is enough to slow you up a little bit. So we'll get you back when you cool down with the dots on that, and we can see what rhythm you've got.
So I'll go. Shall I come and find you later on?
Yeah. So just cool off. We'll probably, because we just want to be here just the end of the race.
Yeah.
And then we'll take you over there and they'll
Well, I'll go to the road, have a shower and get changed.
Yeah, all right. Then we'll meet you. It's 11:02. So we'll see you in probably about 20 minutes, okay?
Okay.
While Seagate fret, others have their own concerns.
That's not too bad at all for a fast pace like this.
I'm scared, honestly. I'm really scared for the heat. I was quite hot on that last run.
That's my ice helmet. That's the ticket.
I like that idea, Mona.
I know.
You got me hooked.
That's how I'm going to start every day.
Go tomorrow.
No such concerns for Team Irul. $2,500 in prize money and the leaders' yellow vests after a day of dominance at the outdoor quest. Everyone managed to finish the course, but Team Canada were more than 25 minutes behind the leaders. Powerbar Malaysia are the leading Asian team in 13th place, less than a minute ahead of Japan's East Wind. Two of the pre-race favourites, Nokia and Seagate, have to settle for 6th and 7th, though the deficit is only a few minutes. But it's Irul who strike the first blow, with a slim lead over their closest rivals, $2,500 already in their accounts, and an important statement of intent delivered.
Each time you sort of sit down or you keep on racing.
For Nathan Fave, the prognosis is good.
Yeah, we can see now that he's back into normal rhythm. You can see the little P waves just here on the screen there, coming up there. So he's definitely back into normal, or sinus rhythm as it's called. So that's a good sign. That means we can all go and have lunch now.
Yeah. It leaves me pretty fatigued. Like, I'm way more tired after that prologue than what I would normally be. So yeah, I just got a bit more recovery to do, but that's okay. Yeah, I've got plenty of time.
But by 2:30 the next morning, Nathan Fave and the rest of the athletes will be on their way to the northern tip of Borneo for a 76-kilometre journey through some of the most spectacular coastline and jungle in the world. Stage 3 takes the teams to the foothills below Mount Kinabalu for a technically testing and physically demanding 65 kilometres of racing through the Kadamian Valley. After a day of rest, it's the big one. Up to the top of Mount Kinabalu and then a hair-raising descent on bike and kayak to the finish 73 kilometres away. The final stage starts at the Nexus Resort and involves a kayak trip to an island paradise before finishing 60 kilometres away at one of Kota Kinabalu's landmark buildings. It will be the end of a grueling journey of 286 kilometres. But first, that long trip to Gadat, where the athletes will race through Borneo's northern paradise on stage 2 of the outdoor quest.